Hello, welcome to the Kitchen Spy. My name is Kate and this is a recipe video for cottage pie. I hope you enjoy it. It's a really simple but very comforting recipe, and let's face it, at the moment we need a bit of comforting, I think. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so very much for your support. If you're not a subscriber and you might like to consider it, then please click the subscribe button and also the notification button, and then you'll get notified when I put other videos up. And if you're brand new altogether, welcome. Really good to have you here. Let's have a look at what we need to make the pie. Okay, so in the way I make my cottage pie, there's a couple of ingredients that you perhaps wouldn't normally and traditionally have in a cottage pie, but they actually give a real good depth of flavour, and so that's why I use them. So the first thing I've got here are 2 cloves of garlic, and they've just been crushed through a garlic press. Then I've got 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard, you can use any mustard, and a tablespoon of tomato puree. Here I've got a teaspoon of thyme, and then I've got half a teaspoon each of cumin and paprika. Yes, you don't, I know that sounds a bit weird, but you don't really taste them. It just, like I say, adds a bit of depth of flavour. Then I've got a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, and this is gluten free. And that again adds a bit of extra flavour. I've got 2 medium onions here which I've chopped up. They weigh in for this recipe here at 207 grams, which is just over 7 ounces. And then I've got 100 grams of mushrooms, which is about 3.5 ounces, and I've just chopped those and then chopped in half again. Potatoes here, I've got just over a kilo of potatoes, about 2 pounds, and as you can see I've just chopped them into pieces for boiling and mashing. And then carrots, this is 3 medium carrots chopped up quite finely, and that is 187 grams or 6 ounces. And then I've got 500 grams of 5% fat minced beef. Obviously you can use fattier varieties if you want to. And then stock, and I've made the stock here, which is about 3/4 of a pint. I've made it with a red wine stock pot. I get these from Tesco. They're really good, add a lot of flavour and no alcohol. And I've also got a Knorr beef stock pot as well, so I've got that mixed up to around about 3/4 of a pint. Then I've got salt and pepper. These meals actually I got from Lidl. They were only 85p each, and they've got really good grinders on them. I don't have a kind of standard salt and pepper grinder in the kitchen because I find they just stop working, so I just buy these other ones. Okay, so there are the ingredients. In the meantime, on another hob, I'm boiling the potatoes, so there's just a shot of that. And what I'm doing here now is I'm just adding some oil and then to the pan. And as usual, I'm just using spray oil, but you can use as much as you want to. Then I'm just adding in the onions. And as usual in most of my recipes, we just need to cook the onions off until they're golden brown. And because I'm using very little oil, I just need to be careful about that and take my time over it. So just put that on a medium heat until the onions are looking kind of like this, a nice light golden brown. That stage we can start to put in some more of the flavour ingredients. So I'm just going to start off with the garlic, just put that in and just work that through. Then I can go in with the herbs, so I've got the paprika, the cumin and the thyme, and again mixing that through. Obviously I've got very little oil here, so I don't want them to stick to the pan, so I'm just going to make sure that they don't, just by adding a splash of water, and this just really helps it stop and also helps the onions to continue to cook. Once we've done that, then we can go in with the rest of the ingredients, and I'm going to put in the wet flavour ingredients now, which are the tomato puree and the mustard. If you don't like any of these particular ingredients, you can miss them out for sure. Basically the things you absolutely have to have, in my opinion, are onions, carrots, obviously the minced beef or whatever mince you want, and the stock. Apart from that, these are just kind of making the flavour profile a bit deeper. When you don't use very much oil in your cooking, you need to replace the flavour that we would naturally get from the fat, and that's why I use these other ingredients. You don't really taste the individual ingredients at the end, they just really add to, as I said earlier, the depth of flavour. Then I'm adding in the carrots, and again just stirring those around to make sure that they just get covered by the aromats. I suppose they are really. They're the ones that add the flavour base to the meal. Again, like before, I can see that this is sticking a little bit, so I'm just going to splash a little bit more water in there. If you're using oil, you probably won't need to do that because the oil would be enough. And then once we've done that, we need to just pop in the meat. So I'm using beef, but obviously you can use lamb. There's a long running argument in our house about whether this is cottage pie or shepherd's pie, but my husband always calls it shepherd's pie regardless of what meat we use. But I work on the principle that if it's beef, it's cottage pie, and if it's lamb, it's shepherd's pie. So I'd be interested to know what you guys think, because if I can prove him wrong, I'd like to. Yeah, and I have proved him wrong actually several times, but he still won't have it. So when I freeze a portion of this, I usually put some kind of abusive label on in the freezer so that if he gets to it before I do, then I'm proving my point over again. Oh, the joys, the little joys of being married. Anyway, so there you go. So we're just stirring that through until it's brown and the meat is virtually cooked, and then we can just add the other things. So I'm adding in the Worcestershire sauce here, and that again is a gluten-free version. I think the ungluten-free version is probably okay for people with allergy because it's so small, the amount of barley in there, but we have the gluten-free version. And there's the stock, and you can see how lovely that stock is. Then I'm just adding salt and pepper, and if you don't want salt in this, you don't have to. There is already a fair amount of salt in the stock, but I like quite a lot of salt, and so I'm adding that. And then what we just need to do is put the mushrooms in. Now look away, people who don't like mushrooms, because you don't have to have mushrooms, but you know, I like to put mushrooms in things because it bulks out the meal for very few calories, and in this instance with cottage pie it really works. So I'm just prodding the mushrooms under the liquid so that they cook. If, like I say, you don't have to put the mushrooms in at all. Okay, so we've popped those all in now, and just stir it through until it comes to a simmer. And then once it gets to the point where it is simmering, we will just pop the lid on and cook that quite fiercely, well, not fiercely, but bubble it away for about 20 minutes. As you can see here, it is at simmering point. You can see around the edges, even after a big stir, it's bubbling. So there you go, lid on, and I'll leave that for about 20 minutes. So here I am back after 20 minutes, being incredibly careful with the lid because obviously it's going to be hot. And yes, this is at the point now where I think everything is cooked, but as you can see, the gravy is still quite thin. So what I'm going to do now is leave it with the lid off and bubble it away to the point where I feel happy that it's ready to use. So I like mine quite dry, so I bubble it away for quite an amount of time. But if you want more gravy, then just stop this process at any point. So you can see here, I've actually got quite a dry mixture, but this is just personal preference. Got the potato, which I've mashed. I didn't think you needed really to see that. And an oven-proof dish, and I'm just going to put the meat mixture into the oven-proof dish and push it down, and you can see there it's quite dry, but again, that's how I like it. So I'm just gonna dollop on the potato and then cover all of the meat with the potato. So as you can see, I've got quite a lot of topping here. You can use as much or as little as you like, but I like quite a lot of potato on this. And in this potato, I've made this with low-fat spread and also a couple of tablespoons of low-fat creme fraiche. But you could go big on that and use butter and cream, and if I wasn't constantly trying to save calories, I would do that too, because there's nothing better than creamy mashed potato. Then once you've got it all covered, you just need to make some kind of pattern on there. I just usually dip the tip of the spoon in to make a kind of wavy, scallopy type pattern, but you can use whatever pattern you want, and even use a fork to make it look more elegant than this is going to look. But yeah, I'm going to pretend that what I'm looking for is a rustic effect, and that is actually what I've got here. Okay, so I didn't show you this in the ingredients, so I apologise for that, but this is cheese. I like a bit of cheese on top of it, and this was about 67 grams. I know that sounds very precise, but I just grated some cheese. So it's 67 grams of cheese, and I'm just popping that on top. And then once I've popped it all on top, I'm going to sprinkle the top with a little bit of paprika. And again, you don't really taste the paprika itself, but it just adds a little bit of something to the mashed potato, and it also helps it to brown, in my opinion anyway. Okay, so I've got that, sprinkling the paprika onto the pie and all over the counter, as you can see there, and then we're going to pop that in the oven, and that's going to go into a 180 fan oven until the top of it looks nice and brown. So here it is now out of the oven, and as you can see, it looks, well, I think it looks absolutely delicious. Even with my dry mixture, you can see there that a bit of the gravy has escaped, but I think that's okay. I think that just adds to its attractiveness, really. So this pie will actually serve 6 quite generously. So what I'll do is serve 2 up tonight and then freeze 4 portions in the freezer, a couple with some kind of abusive label on it. Oh, sorry. Anyway, so this is it, all plated up. Now, we always have cottage pie with baked beans, which may sound weird, but I don't... try it and then see if it's weird, because it is lovely. Okay, so this entire plate is 420 calories. That's 289 calories for the portion of cottage pie, and then obviously the rest is the beans. So it's just such a comforting meal. I like anything you can eat with just a fork, and you absolutely can with this. So it's one of our favourite meals. It's a bit faffy, I suppose, because you have to do a couple of processes, but it's definitely worth it. And because you can freeze it, actually you've got a couple of meals in the bag already. Okay, so there you are. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give it a thumbs up. If you are already a subscriber, thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. If you aren't, and you feel like you might want to look at other recipes and food hauls and meals of the week, then please click subscribe and the notification button, and then you'll get to know when I post another video. I'm also over on Instagram at Kitchen Spy, so if you're interested in that, I do tend to post more often on there. So I generally post my meal of the day on there, plus a few other things. So anyway, I hope to see you again either here or on Instagram. And as always, thank you so very much for watching. Take care, stay safe, bye bye.